Welcome back to the Two Guys, One Book podcast. My name is CJ, and my co-host is
Ben,
Hi, Ben. How you doing today?
I'm good, dude.
Another day sober, 24 hours down, or not
Absolutely.
yet, but we're getting there.
No.
So today's episode 1, we're gonna kind of give you guys a little backstory on our experience, strength, and hope, so you guys can kind of get an idea of who your hosts are for the podcast, and then we'll explore in-depth sobriety as time goes on. So, Ben, would you like to go first? Or you want me to go first?
You can start.
All right, I guess I will start. So, my name's CJ. I am a selfish alcoholic. A little bit about me. I come from a family where my mom and dad were never really together. They kind of just had me with a happy little accident. That does kind of play a part in my sobriety. But growing up, it was kind of tough going back and forth from my mom's house, then to my dad's house, and then like just feeling being pulled in two different directions. And it just sucked. Like I didn't know what was what the right decision was. I always felt like I was choosing a side, whether I want to go to my mom's house. Oh no, I want to go to my dad's house. And it just sometimes the way that they reacted kind of tore me apart inside. I didn't understand it as a kid, but growing up and kind of working through those issues, especially like with my fourth step, I was able to kind of dig deep and really get to the root of the problem. But moving forward, so growing up, I was born with an illness called biliary atresia. It is a liver disease, and the procedure that they tried to do to fix the issue didn't work. And I had to get a liver transplant at the age of, I believe, 6 months old. So growing up with a chronic illness kind of made me feel separate from everybody else. I couldn't really do a lot of the things that other kids could. I just forced myself to do it. So growing up, felt like the outcast, and I never really connected with anybody. So I felt very alone at times. Moving forward a couple years, as time goes on, I again make friends, make good connections, and growing up, my doctor was like, "Oh, you can't drink, you can't drink." Growing up, I felt suicidal. I just didn't want to live anymore, and once that was made up in my mind, I was like, "I can fucking drink. Like, fuck it, who the fuck cares?" It's going to kill me because I didn't have the balls to go through it the first couple of times that I've tried to kill myself. But, drinking is a slow process, and I can just continue putting on a front. So decided to start drinking. And during that time, I was also going through liver failure. So my quote unquote wish was coming true. But when faced with the reality of death and kind of that scary feeling, I decided to, again, stop drinking. Once I stopped drinking, everything kind of played out. Ended up getting a second liver transplant, lived in a different environment for 8 months. And then after that, I got that second transplant, and as they say in the rooms, this disease is cunning, powerful,
Cunning, baffling, powerful.
There we go. Thanks, Mr. A. But yeah, like that second transplant, like after 2 years, it didn't stop me from picking up again. I wasn't working a program. I thought I could do it on my own. Tried to get sober by myself, didn't work, and then ended up checking myself into rehab. After checking myself into rehab for the first time, came back out. The blessing of my life, my daughter was born, and she was born a little bit before I came back from rehab. But yeah, it was just a very confusing time, and it was just rough to get through. And then I let everything accumulate, and yeah, I was in the rooms, but mentally I wasn't in the rooms. Like physically I was there, mentally I wasn't. And I mean, again, not participating and not doing the things that you need to do. Everybody listening that has gone through something like this knows if you don't work it, then you're not going to recover.
You were done, but not willing.
And what was that first question that you asked me when I asked you to be my sponsor?
Are you willing?
Are you done?
Yeah.
That was the first question.
Second question. Are you willing?
But yeah, once I relapsed after about a year and 4 months, I checked myself back into rehab after getting into a car accident, receiving a DUI. I it was a very traumatic experience, and like I'll still wake up with nightmares of kind of crashing my car, even though I don't remember crashing my car, and like I probably should have been dead. But I can go into detail on a lot of this stuff later on. I just kind of want to give everybody the synopsis. But after that, I got out of rehab, and before I got out of rehab, they gave me an option. Like, hey, listen, we suggest you take the route of PHP. I was like, I don't really want to like give up. Like, I got shit on the outside world. Like, I want to go do things. It was a very like selfish thing, and like I sat and thought about it, and I was like, you know what? Everything can wait, because if I don't make that choice now to continue pursuing my sobriety, then I'm just doomed to relapse again and doomed to cause more problems and issues than I did before. And who knows, I could have died if I didn't make this decision, because it's all about life and death. Moving forward, get into this PHP program, really good program that I ended up in. They also partnered with, set me up with housing, and that's where we currently are. Shout out RTR. And you know, looking back, it was probably the best decision of my life, and it has changed a lot of things. And the more willing and like let things be the way they're supposed to be instead of trying to control them, I feel so much more at peace and relaxed. Like I can find joy in things again because I'm not stressed. Stress fucking sucks. But yeah, after I entered the program, I shortly started attending this meeting that still think the name's kind of cringy, but it's all love.
Well,
The Savages. But it was a really great group of people. And like I still enjoy going there to this day because it's very friendly, it's welcoming. And I seen this guy, like I said before, and I asked him to be my sponsor. And then, what, a month or two afterwards, I give him a call. I was like, yo, I got an idea. He's like, what's the idea? I was like, after my 12 steps, they start a podcast and help other alcoholics and addicts. He was like, all right, bet. As soon as we get done your 12 steps, guess who's done his 12 steps? But the journey is not over. But that's
through your 12 steps.
through my 12 steps for the first time.
Never done.
No. But that's a little bit about me. And again, I'll go in depth more as like the podcast goes on. You guys will learn a little bit more details about my story. So if you guys want to learn more about my story, make sure you guys keep checking in to all of our episodes, and you'll start to get those bits and pieces that I left out. But that's me. I'm CJ. I am a selfish alcoholic.
You like that?
Oh, I
You really like saying
love it because it
Yeah.
describes me as like an alcoholic. I'm a very selfish individual.
Like all of us are.
Yeah, but I'd like to own it,
All right.
because if I don't own it,
Whatever works for you, dog.
hey, works for you,
Whatever
work
works
it.
for you, right?
Preach.
So I mean, to keep my story kind of short and on me, right? I got addicted to drugs early on. Like as a kid, I was always very what?
Move up a little bit.
So just to keep my story on me in short, like as a kid, I was always very manipulative of people to get what I would want out of a situation, and always too smart for my own good. Always thought I had an answer for something. I would have been like 3 years old. My dad would have been showing me how to do something. I was like, nah, nah, nah. Like, you watch and learn. I'm gonna show you. And as that went on, like there were just a lot of people around me doing drugs, selling drugs, who had money, who had girlfriends, and like stuff that I had wanted. So I got very interested in that from a young age, and then I started using at a young age, around 15, and then it grew, right? Like the consequences at home got bad. I couldn't manage any of the relationships with my parents. By 16, 17, I was living at my girlfriend's house. Both my parents wanted kind of nothing to do with me at the time. I didn't want anything to do with them either. We just couldn't get along, right? Constant butting heads. So by the time I'm 20, money runs out, drugs run out. I'm sick in this girl's bed. She ends up kicking me out, and I had gotten a job overnight at Walmart, and I was just working my way up through Walmart. So I stayed with my boy for a couple days. I moved back in shortly with my father briefly for like 3 or 4 months, I think. And then from there, I got my own place. Stopped with the drugs for a while. I was just smoking weed. Like, I got this. I'm just gonna smoke weed. I'll be fine. Um, then I turned 21 with my own apartment, and I picked up a bottle. And like I would work these long days, these like 14-hour days. I'd come home and be like, oh, I deserve a drink or two, and I'd start having a drink or two at the end of my day, and it kind of grew from there. And fast forward 2 years, a couple other promotions, somehow still functional. Still working at Walmart. I'm traveling for work, and all functionality of my use comes to like a screeching halt. Like, I can't show up at work sober. I can't manage a single relationship. I'm staying at this girl's apartment in Penn State, back and forth, spending the night at my dad's sometimes. And I before I know it, I'm like physically dependent on alcohol, and I don't want to tell anybody. I'm waking up shaking, and I don't want anybody to know. Like, that feeling of shame at like 23 years old, being physically dependent on alcohol, felt 10 times worse than it did when I was on drugs. I'd much rather that was my line of thinking. Like, I'd much rather tell people I'm a drug addict than I am an alcoholic, right? And there's really no difference. Like, today, I'm able to sit here and know that if I'm one, I'm probably the other too. Um, but yeah, so I moved in with this girl in Sparta in New Jersey. She goes to Florida. I go with her. I'm down there for like a month and a half. None of me wants to come back to New Jersey. I just want to stay in her apartment and keep drinking and keep hiding. And the pain gets great enough where I reach out for some help. I tell my dad, like, yo, I need some help. I go, still not willing. I put myself into an IOP program. So now I'm going to IOP 5 days a week, just still smoking my weed, not giving it up. It's helped me my whole life. No. But so eventually into that IOP program, I pick up a drink again. I get moved into a higher level of care, IAMA. Um and I really am left with like nowhere to go and nothing to do. So a couple more months of pain pass, needed more suffering, and I finally reached back out for some help to go to treatment. And I go to my first inpatient, which was down here in South Jersey in Cherry Hill, and that's how I ended up down here. And then, that meeting you're talking about with the cringy name, Savages, right? They came in, my sponsor chaired an H&I commitment every Sunday night at my rehab. And, that was enough to draw me. I wanted what they had, right? I saw enough similarity between the way I talked, my experiences, and the way they were, their experiences, that yeah, I could do this as well. Like, I finally felt that moment of like, damn, I can do this, and like, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I came out of treatment, to be fully honest, I made some stupid decisions while I was in treatment. I met a girl in rehab.
And what is that called? Is that the 13th step?
Dude, I was
No.
still in rehab.
Oh,
It's
all right.
definitely
So
not a 13th step. That's a
rehab
rehab
romance.
That's
Yo,
a
that should be a
rehab
reality
romance.
TV show.
Maybe put a bunch of drug addicts in like two separate houses. Fresh, nah, like I'm talking like fresh out of rehab, right? You get them out of rehab and you put like the dudes in one house, the girls in another house, and like just take them on dates and make them find compatibility.
We're gonna
That could be a
copyright that,
real thing.
and
Um,
no, we're not. That's
but
horrible.
yeah, yeah.
You need
That's kind of gas.
needle
That's
in the
kind of
haystack.
gas.
Holy shit!
Yeah, that might work. Very niche audience though, right? Like
Only the sick and
only us, yeah,
suffering.
only us would watch. Only people like us would watch.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so
But there's so many of us.
very true.
But not all of us admit it.
Deep. Look at this guy.
Continue.
But so yeah, I met this girl, and she had this grand idea that her mom was gonna buy her a house in Clearwater, Florida, she told me. And so, me having a car, said, say less. When I get out of here, we're going to drive to Florida and your mom's going to buy us a house and we'll do AA down there. We'll stay sober. Right. So she ends up like AMAing while I'm in treatment. She goes back to Kensington. She relapses. I'm texting her. She ends up coming back to treatment. I discharge on March 20th. I'm out. I get a completion. Let's go. Um, but, she decided to AMA that day and we went to Florida. Right. So our mom actually looked at buying houses, but this girl, didn't want any parts of it. So I brought her back to where she lived in Philly, and I came to AA, and yeah, I really haven't stopped doing this work from the first day I came in, right? And that's kind of, to me, my understanding of the program is like the work I do today is the only thing that matters. Like I could have fucked up yesterday. As long as I deal with what I did yesterday and like I look at today and I do the work I have to do, like I should be okay. You know, try not to look at tomorrow at all. Right? AA is a very, and you hear it all the time. Like it's a 24-hour thing, but I really haven't stopped working, and it changes and it grows. Like the more you continue to work a program, the more you can really see like a fellowship grow up about you, and like other people dive in the way you dove in, and it's been cool, dude. It's been
And you've
cool.
been not to like stroke her ego or anything,
Yeah.
but you've been definitely like after like talking to a lot of people, you are very into very into the program. You dive in, and you're like, how am I gonna articulate this? I've heard people say that like you emulate what they want in recovery, and like that's something like that.
That's
The
beautiful.
reason why I chose you as a sponsor,
Yeah. That means
because you were,
a lot.
yeah, and I'm not the only person that thinks it. Like
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people talk about like you are what like I want in sobriety. Like I
Yeah.
want to be involved. I want to actually give it a shot, and I want to be happy. Like I want to have
Yeah.
fun. Like dude, I see you smiling and laughing at all these meetings and
I
having a
smile and laugh
great
all the
time.
time. Yeah.
Not many people realize, especially first coming into these rooms, that
Yeah.
sobriety can be
Well,
fun. I
like,
mean,
and the distinction I had to make, right, that first allowed me to do that was like these are actually my people. You know what I mean? And like I can go into any AA meeting or even an NA meeting and automatically feel connected to the people in the room. We have the same struggle and we have the same solution.
and it makes you very empathetic to people like that are struggling
Right.
with this disease. Like before I got involved in the program, I would look at somebody like as a normie, somebody who is addicted to something, and just have this like preconceived notion of just their ugh. They give me the ick, was what them kids are saying now. But it this program definitely kind of brings things into light that you didn't understand before, and it's a very nice feeling to be compassionate towards others, especially suffering.
I think what happens when we finally start to like get ourselves out of that selfish judge, because like I like most people will tell you they came into the rooms judging everybody in the room.
Oh yeah,
Like
dude, I looked for a
but
fucking excuse to get out of the room. So I
that
was like,
wasn't my
"Yo, this guy's fucked
experience.
up. This chick's
Yeah,
fucked up. I'm leaving. Like,
wasn't
I'm not
my
like these people."
experience at all. It was not my experience at all. I had come into the rooms and I was finally like, yo, like there's people who get it.
Yeah,
There's people who get me. Like these are my people. I finally found a place that I feel connected.
and that's like a different. Again, people are in different places, especially in trying to find recoveries, where people aren't ready to admit that they have a problem. That's where they're going to
Yeah.
start pointing shit out, and that's
I
something that
think
I
my
went
ego
through.
was bruised enough. My ego was bruised enough when I walked in here.
And some people, like when they come in the rooms for the first time, it what they went through was not enough, and it sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I say this a lot. Like, you can be done, but not willing.
Yeah.
Like, it's better to be willing to do this, to connect with people, to do the work, and not know if you're done. Like, it's way better to be willing and have no idea if you're fucking done. Because then you come in and you got a shot. Like if you're willing to work it, you actually have a shot. If you're done, like in my head, oh, I'm done. I'm never touching it again. But you're not willing to do anything. You're gonna drink.
Yeah. And like something that I kind of do want to talk about, like, you know how, like, when you help somebody, you kind of get them in the rooms and then they end up leaving. Like, that, it hurts a
Yeah,
lot. And
trust
like,
me. Yeah,
me and you have experienced that together at one point with somebody we mutually know. And he just didn't want to stay. He just wanted to go. And like, if I wasn't in the place that I'm at now, especially in my recovery, that would have impacted my sobriety to a crazy degree. But now that I have this foundation, it sucks.
yeah.
Life's gonna fucking life. But I mean, it didn't cause too much mental damage. I mean, it still sucks. Like, I think about it all the
Well,
time.
this is where the God thing becomes where it has to be bigger, right? Like if your God is bigger than the things that are going on in your life, and you can clearly see where somebody's like still caught up in their own will. Like one thing I see a lot in the rooms is people who blame God for other people's actions. Why would this shit have happened to me? Why would God let them do this? Like, bro, like we all have free will. We all do shit on our own sometimes. You know what I mean? That's where we have to make our God bigger.
Yeah.
But especially when stuff like that happens. Like I tried, so a lot of people I've went to treatment with, I think only two of us are sober. Out of like the main people I really went to treatment with, only two of us stayed sober. And I'm one of them, so it's one other guy. But like I think it's just a matter of being willing to finally throw your hands up and say like my way doesn't fucking work. Like a lot of it's hard. It's hard to admit, but like the amount of relief you were talking about it earlier, like how good it feels to just let it go, to
Oh,
just let stuff go, right? The freedom,
100%.
and the word's freedom, like the freedom that comes in that, the freedom to be able to feel peace, the freedom to be able to feel joy comes from like letting shit go and not trying to be the main character and not trying to tell everybody how to fucking be, tell whatever. But yeah,
And you know that it's gonna be a constant thing, and like something that, hi, um,
Can't see me. See the screen?
um, for those of you who are unaware, we have a live studio audience. His name is Tommy.
How are you?
Hi, Tommy. But going back into it, I mean, something that I do want to point out that like I had an issue with again in early sobriety is watching people go back out. Like again, it's not.
sad, dude.
It's
Like it's
hard.
always gonna be sad. But like one thing I remember being very early on, and a girl in my close network, she had a lot of time. She went back out. She came back to the rooms, went back out again, and died. Right, and she had helped a lot of people, and she was pretty involved in AA for a long time, right? Like it's sad, but I remember some of my sponsors said, like, you're either gonna be the message or the messenger, right? And like even in the saddest moments, like for people like us, it has to keep it green for us. Like the ultimate message underneath it all is why we don't go back out. Is why we work this program, right? Because it could kill us, or it'll keep us sick and a slave to a drug or a drink. It's one or the other. Jails, institutions, or death.
And the one thing that I want to point out that from what you were just saying is the action that you took. And it's important, again, people that are checking into the podcast, like if this ever happens to you, make sure you reach out to your network, talk to your sponsor. If you don't have a sponsor, I highly recommend getting one. But if you don't, reach out to your network. Don't try to like push things through alone because you aren't alone anymore.
Yeah, it's a we program.
And it is a
Now,
very,
one of the steps in Alcoholics Anonymous says
what are we,
I.
what are we, French now? We?
None of the steps say I.
No. Except when we say the serenity prayer at the end.
The Wii version.
I say the
Oh
fucking
yeah,
we
you,
version.
you
Dude.
force that.
I
I
say
love
the we
it.
version.
I hate when people do the I version because then it's just very.
Dude, you say the I version.
I say we. You don't hear me?
Say God grant us.
Just freestyling on the fucking podcast.
Hey! Watch your tone, sir. I'm not a freestyler. Watch yourself. But yeah. I mean, we'll end it here. But before we go, is there one piece of advice you want to
Yeah, I
give
mean,
anybody?
like if you're watching this and you're new to AA, get a fucking home group, get a sponsor, take a commitment, get involved. Like it gets easier.
Yeah.
At least staying sober gets easier. Life is always going to be life. We're all in that shit together too. My problems are never bigger than anybody else's. Like we all go through life, problems, bills, death, all that shit. We all go through it. But like we go through it together in AA. Like I'm not alone. I don't have to go through that shit alone. My problem's never bigger than anybody else's. But yeah, if you're new, get a home group, get a sponsor, get a commitment.
And if you guys have any questions about it, leave it in the comments, direct message us. We have Instagram, we have TikTok, Two Guys, One Book. And I'm actually looking forward to the future episodes where we actually like get in depth with about like the types of meetings, big book breakdown, daily reflections. I can never say that correctly.
Yeah, you struggle with that.
I am on the struggle bus.
Daily reflection.
Reflections.
It's hard for you.
Reflections. I don't know,
He
dude.
said
Now I'm
daily
saying it.
reflection.
Yeah. It's like I'm drunk. Yo, then ditto. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Two Guys, One Book podcast. Ben, say goodbye. We are signing out. Peace.